Good evening, everyone, and I greet you all. I'm your host. With me is the fitness mental coach, 𝗩𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓. How are you, 𝗩𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓, today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well, full of energy, even though I don't look and sound like it.
No, days are not the same, I assure you.
Yeah.
Okay, we just would like to take this opportunity to talk today more about the rising to the current workplace realities. And I just thought that today let us just give a background to the workplace situation. What are we talking about when we talk about work? What is it we're talking about? The realities of the workplace. Perhaps maybe someone who has never been to a workplace environment. And what an ideal workplace reality should be, by the way, and what a normal workplace environment is all about. I would just like to give a background. Under normal circumstances in South Africa, the work environment is characterized by strong work and personal relationships. That's where we forge personal work relationships and we attach them to what the employer expects within those expectations in the relationships that's between employees and the employer. And building trust is not an easy thing. So it is one of those characteristics of the workplace, a background through various built-in mechanisms in that workplace situation as well. The observation of hierarchy as well is one of the characteristics of the workplace. Expectation and situation as well, that normally it's the top-down approach hierarchy that we've always maintained. And employee rights as well, because we've always operated under those circumstances throughout in South Africa. A safe and a healthy working conditions and inclusivity, because when employees are united, then they can produce better results and perform better as well. So I'm just going to move forward a bit and talk about performance vis-a-vis results. I know that you deal with performance, right? And it's one of your passions, by the way.
Very much.
What is performance according to your work knowledge, and how would you describe what the performance to be?
So I'll do my best to describe it as I understand it in the context of exactly the backdrop that you gave, which is you've got what we refer to as workplace, because someone had a vision, and so a company was built or organization, and you've got somebody on the other side who needs to have livelihood. So whether they believe in the vision or not, but they will rush and try to find a spot in that company or organization because they want to leave. And then the concept of performance comes in, because the person who builds the company or organization expects the person who wants livelihood to do something to please them, something in line with their vision, so that if you understood exactly what the vision was, you would most likely know if you belonged or not. And you'd also even be able to be creative to do that which will help this person achieve their vision. So performance is then referred, when we talk of performance, it's it's something that does not exist in isolation. Performance is looked at in relation to that vision, and so the targets that get set in most environments, that okay, for us to be able to reach this vision, we have to reach these targets.
Sure.
So you have to perform, you have to work towards. So that is performance.
So there are commonalities between performance and results.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
So how do we then link the human aspects when it comes to the workplace reality, in that we have always seen when employees, as I gave the background, that once there's inclusivity, people produce better results and perform better. However, throughout the years, we have noticed that the human element cannot function in isolation of the well-being of the individual, of all the employees themselves, you know. So they are not driven as robots. They are not driven by sheer waking up on a day-to-day basis and going to work. What is it that is a make or break for employees in order for them to attain those results at the end of the day?
Yeah. So some people will quickly tell you it's the salary that people get at the end of the day that will motivate them to give you the kind of result that you want. But then this day and age, you've got expressions that get thrown every now and then. The one that comes to mind is malicious compliance. So people, and this is a generalization, no longer go to work because they believe in that vision. People go to work solely because they get that salary at the end of the day. And so if you have a situation where you don't care about the welfare of your employees, you're likely going to have more of those people who go just
to draw a salary.
Yes.
Okay. But what about the values, the shared values within, and the culture within the particular organization? Where does it feature in together to ensure a healthy and safe environment for these employees to share a common vision and gain? Where do the values, culture come in that particular scenario, and in that particular organization as well, to ensure that employees do at some point in time perform optimally in that space?
That's a very interesting question. Sorry, question you just asked. And I'm saying that because I have come across numerous teams, organizations with vision this size, and I'm not exaggerating, a paragraph. And I think to myself, if you ask even the very head of that organization or senior people, so what is that vision of yours? They will not be able to say it word for word because of the length, and also because when you have a lengthy vision like that, it's not even compelling, let alone impelling, getting you to want to wake up. So I'm talking about vision because I find that I can't talk about values without starting there. So when you have a vision, the beautiful thing about that is it's easy to even draw your mission. You know that this is what we are about. And you're also even able to say, this is how we will behave. And that talks to values. So that's where the values flow from. Being clear what the vision is, knowing what your mission, what you are here to do. and then knowing this is how we carry ourselves in this organization. Those are our values. And to your question, how do we even get those values? We draw them from the vision. So I'm saying it's important to not have an old vision that you don't even keep
Track of.
You don't keep track of it, you don't review, you don't talk about it even in meetings. When we come to meetings, it's just about what needs to be done here and now, and never really that link back to the vision. And we wonder why we have people who behave in ways that are not expected, and yet maybe they wear a certain uniform or they are in a certain office. And I'm not saying that's the only reason, but for the most part, you have people not living or conducting themselves in line with a vision because they don't know what that vision is in the first place. They don't know why they are in that organization, believe you me.
Okay. Going back to what we are on about in terms of the current realities in our workplace, you mentioned the link between mission and values. Now, I was just trying to internalize it and think of whether in this current situation that we are at, do we still adhere to values? Do we know what value means? Do we know what a mission is? And the reason, I'm sure the reason why we are here equally is to ask ourselves what has gone wrong with the values, with that mission. And how then do we remedy the situation if ever we know that something is going wrong or has gone wrong? Do we still adhere to the values that have been set by the organization, by employees, and together the relationship that I was talking about, inclusivity, partnerships, behavioral patterns, and the trust relationship that is built over a period of time by the employer with employees as well. What is it that is amiss?
So the moment you asked that question, I thought to myself, things have really changed. Again, we're talking generalization here. You suddenly have teams, organizations who are very clear what they are about in terms of their vision. They're clear what their mission is in the world or in their space, wherever they operate. And they're clear what their values are, so that if you didn't live by those values, you would know yourself that I've actually broken one or two or three of the values that we're supposed to live by. So this day and age, I'm saying companies that still have that are very lucky, and some of them are the ones that have a way to force these things into their employees, which is mostly not to the liking of the people who work there, but then people will still stick with those employers because, again, there's some livelihood I get out of this, and maybe there's a career path that I want to pursue, and this organization is going to give me, hopefully, it's going to give me that opportunity. But then you also have the other opposite end, where you have, and researchers actually showed this umpteen times, that people this day and age are disengaged. And from one research, disengaged, and from one research I picked up, I even learned a new term that still talks to disengagement. It calls it active disengagement.
Active disengagement.
So you've got people who are disengaged because they're not getting direction from the very leadership or management.
Scary.
And so they get tired because they really love the vision that once was and the values and the mission, but they don't know what's going on and they haven't got power to change anything, so they disengage. And then you've got people who are actively disengaged. It's like they were never interested, or they're not interested in the vision, in the mission. They just love to do the thing we spoke about earlier, which is draw that salary. So if there's a way that they can prove that they've been there, so that they mark their
register,
yes, that's all they can do. But if somebody watches them, obviously they'll do something. So this day and age, it's becoming more and more common, and it's a systemic issue. So it's not just about people not wanting to live according to these values that companies set. There's also a whole host of things that cause people to really not be as engaged. Because remember, again, you've got people becoming older and older.
Sure.
Hence we talk of even an aging workforce.
Yes.
So people no longer pick up weight like they used to. And so as they drop the standard, they don't necessarily live according to the values of the organization. Yeah.
Yeah, because I also picked up that in what has changed in our workplaces and what has also been allowed, I think not by default per se, is the evolution of technology as well. I witnessed people that are scared of touching the computer and working on the computer. And when you try and ask them that, look, you can no longer write on that notebook or paper, they will tell you that they are comfortable with that. They have worked with that piece of paper for the past 30 years or so. And I remember a colleague of mine used to say that it was 30 years of wrongdoing, by the way, that people would not want to change things and want to leave them as they are. So the productivity has also has been an issue after realizing that, you know, the pain and equally the happiness that we derive from the work that we do. For some, it has been painful. For some others, they would say that I love my job. But how many people say that they love their job or they dread going to work on a day-to-day basis? But I have picked up that in the process where situations have actually changed our work environment, amongst other is COVID. COVID has changed so much in that globally as well, not just throughout in South Africa, but the paradigm shift in terms of how we should be working, the hours and the structure as well. The organizational design spoke to those changes that COVID had an impact on the global scene. And the issue of wellness, because in the long run, throughout this podcast, Ace, we will be talking about wellness, healing, mental fitness as well, your favorite topic. Yeah, so that has had quite an impact on the livelihood of the workforce in general when we look at it. And the mere fact that I think most organizations did not conceptualize the issue of a well-being or wellness into the policies, the procedures of the world, of the organizations, to ensure that they deal with the holistic individual and linking it to performance as well. So how can employees be cautioned and be sensitized to the wellness of employees, to perhaps also pin on the kind of issues that are coming up in terms of the level of absenteeism, as I mentioned, wellness, workplace toxicity, and etc. How can we sensitize our employees in this regard?
Yeah. So there's something again that we touched on earlier, which was the fact, for me at least, that and I mean we agreed on that. Times have changed. So that original story that I know of an employer, the big one, who has it all, who holds it all, who owns it all, and the employee who almost has this posture.
Sure.
Not anymore. You have a situation where, in most, if not all cases, the employer needs the employee more than the other way around. Or maybe the two need each other equally. There's no great way I can measure that, but there definitely is a mutual benefit that exists between these two. So it's quite critical for the employer of today to understand that these are real issues you're talking about. I mean, most employers are frustrated because of the very absenteeism you were talking about, and people who will say, I've been absent because I've got a mental health issue. I mean, we live in East London, and East London has got a place called 𝗧𝗜𝗧𝗟𝗘𝗢, and there was a time when I didn't know that place existed. Today, a month does not pass without hearing that word, that name, and even maybe 3 months don't pass without hearing that somebody I know has been admitted there or is from there. So
wait a minute. Is that serious? So nobody is paying attention, no one is listening, as in employers?
That's the crazy reality we have. People have all these kinds of issues that lead to them not being productive, not being at work, and even presenteeism, because when we talk about absenteeism, there's also this issue of presenteeism. People are there, but because they're not well,
right.
they can't present perform. But they're not performing.
Yeah, they find themselves having to go to work. It's, as you said, that it's malicious compliance.
Sure. And the one other thing, with the last one this round, that I wanted to say is it's high time that employers brought themselves closer and pulled the employees closer, so that they met in the middle and held those conversations that they've ignored for the longest time, to their peril. Because as long as we don't have these conversations, we're going to bring laws, you're going to bring the stick, you think that you're going to fix the absenteeism story, you're wasting your time, because people will say, oops, I'm sorry, and they know they're going to do it again. It's passive aggression.
Yes, it becomes a repetitive passive aggression, as you said.
So there's deep work that needs to be done in that space. Serious conversations held, shine a light on the reality, because it is reality, everybody knows about it, but people were never prepared to deal with these things. You have people who are managers who go through these serious institutions come back with MBA and they can't handle these kinds of issues. You've got doctors who have to help people with these kinds of issues and they treat them, they give them medication, and then those people look like they're getting better and they relapse and then they default and then they regress, and you find that there's no lasting solution. So it's a big issue that's difficult for all corners or professionals, your management teams, and still nobody wants to talk about it. So that together, because remember, always a picture is painted to show the employee to be the one who has all these kinds of issues, and yet you have management too, with these issues, and still nobody is talking about
that, because I've heard this one conversation in one podcast where the speaker was highlighting the plight of workers leaving organizations due to poor management, managers driving employees out of the work place. And you start to begin, I was listening attentively when you mentioned that you have all these managers having the right qualifications, but do they have the right people management skills? Have they acquired? Have they been taken through your managerial or development programs that are much needed in the workplace? Because if no one has been in a managerial or a supervisory position, but you elevate them to that level, how are they going to deal with the complexities that come with the job? What are we saying there? What has gone wrong? How are we supposed to be navigating through all these challenges that we see happening on a day-to-day basis and affects our morale? Other people that come, not only, as I mentioned previously, skills, they come with their emotions, their talent, their creativity, and in the work environment. How are we supposed to be protecting those people that give their all? Because not everyone will offer the same standard of work, and how do you ensure that you identify and help those that need help, and identify those employees as well that perform better than the others as well, and ensure that others get to that particular level as well, or standard of work that is expected. So it is a plethora of reasons that we need to relook as organizations or institutions where employees are no longer feeling safe, where employees no longer feel the need to wake up and go to work, and work satisfaction is no longer the buzzword for them. So I've picked up what you have indicated as well, that managers are to a certain extent being protected when they commit all this misbehavior as well. When they misbehave, who ensures that action is taken against them, whilst the subordinates are unable to fight for themselves as well? So it just creates a vacuum whereby nobody wants to listen objectively to both sides. And as I said, do we objectively look at situations where the manager lacks capacity to handle these issues of employee relations? And I think as we identified in the topic of rise into the current workplace realities, we will be talking from time to time on these realities that are confronting us in the workplace situation. And
there's just one point I wanted to add. Sorry for interjecting there. I'm thinking you have this reality that you just painted so beautifully. Employees who are not giving the level of productivity that's required because of all these elements bordering on mental health and the likes. And then just remembered that the same research that I made reference to is the one that I think it was around 2022 years, where they when they conducted it and picked up the amount of money that's wasted, that's lost from absenteeism to the tune of 16 billion. I'm talking across the country. Yes.
Across the country.
Across the country.
So was this study done basically on just a few, was it conducted at a few organizations, or the sample was across perhaps obtaining statistics from the various institutions?
Quite representative, yeah. Quite representative.
Relatively, yeah. Okay.
So if you can lose that much money from absenteeism, so there's nothing these people are doing, and so companies are losing that much money. How about spending that much money supporting these very employees?
Look at that.
And you know where the money has gone at least.
Yes.
You create the best work environment for them. I mean, you've got people who earn barely above the living wage, and how do you expect those people to afford your medical aid? And even if they just about do, because it's so important, because they have a chronic ailment. Quarter way through the year, they've got more year left than money, or the funds are depleted completely. So what's the point of having that? And check the contributions they have to make towards the medical aid, and imagine if such a huge amount of money were to be used by the different employers just to support these very employees, so that they bring these services at a discounted price, at a subsidized price, or some for free because they are at a certain level. I'm sure that you'd enjoy so much loyalty, so much engagement from your employees if you just thought in that line. Because and those things don't happen because employers are not coming close to the employees, and employees are bickering, they're making a lot of noise, and nobody's listening. So if the two, because these are supposed to be partners. So as long as we have that colonial mind that the employer is the boss, yes, and the employee is supposed to be that pair of hands, yes, yeah, no heart, no anything, we're going to go deeper and deeper into these kinds of troubles.
I think this is where I wanted us to perhaps maybe in our next conversations, as we talk about the elements and the issues that we foresee could be remedial and assisting companies in the future to say that what is the future of the workplace? What kind of imagination are we forging or forming in our own minds that it should be? Sure. What are the expectations in our workplace, without having to break rules in the sense of saying that no, don't do this, don't do that. Look, I say that we are not kids when we're in the workplace. Everybody is supposed to be performing accordingly. What does performance mean to the force. What are the expectations? And I think with all these defines and confines that we're supposed to be working under, those derivatives should be, in a way, be told and explained to our employees. Orientation should not necessarily just be a once-off day wherein when you are employed on your first day, you're going for orientation and it becomes a set of rules that someone that is going to be coming and so forth. Should it not then be forming a by and large a frequent event whereby we say that before we ensure that there are meetings, we go back to those values, for example, and just create more awareness to employees to say that, to remember that this is what we expected to do, blah blah. We know why you're here, and we value you. So that's what I meant by value. How do we attach value in whatever that we do, by the way, so that employees continuously understand that when discipline is taken, it does not necessarily mean that they should be dismissed. It could lead to dismissal all the time, or one preempts to dismiss them. Discipline is meant to ensure that corrective action is also applied. But it has to be done in certain ways as well. So I think having these kind of discussions are leading us to some way to appreciate the fact that the workplace environment will still be with us, will still be there in the future. However, what does the future entail for the workplace and employees as well, and the employer? As you put it out nicely to say that when you look at things now, it's no longer a matter of the employer playing big brother vis-a-vis somebody who's got to be submitting all the time to the big brother situation. I think in our next conversation, Ace, we will be touching base a little bit, just going back to what the ideal work environment should be. And then we will talk about what we see in our workplaces, for example, the high rate of absenteeism. And you spoke about being present, what presentism means in the workplace environment in terms of rising to the current work realities.
Yeah. It's an interesting conversation. We drawing to an end at this point by the sounds of things. The fact that, I mean, you started us off with the introduction, the background to the conversation itself and the workplace. And it just got me thinking about something I think we spoke about at some point offline. The fact that you can have a vision, and often when you state that vision, it always gives you a sense that if I did 1, 2, 3, I would end up there.
Sure.
Like it's a straight linear thing, but is it really? A
No.
vision never pans out like that.
No.
It's so squiggly, like
yes.
crazy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the shape of the conversation we've had. That's even how it goes. The workplace is cut out to be this for the employer and that for the employee, but it has turned out to be something completely different. So it worked at one point because that first company builder or creator was very clear what their vision was, and they had hearts for these people. They had a vision driving them. And this day and age, I think we have lost quite a bit of that, so that we see these people as tools to exploit. And like I've said, a pair of hands, you don't attach value to. You just want what you want, what it can give you. It's not like it's got feelings. It's not like it's got a heart, and it's not like this is a mother who is a boss in her home, and this is a father who also is a boss in their home. You treat people like they are nobodies, and that direction is not leading us anywhere but to destruction. So we want to turn things around. We want these forces to come and meet each other in the middle. We still need to have a leader, for sure.
Sure.
Like you need to have a driver, otherwise we will go and yeah,
over the edge.
Exactly.
No, I think we need to also have a conversation again on the realities that we experience, because you know what, there is just so much. It's for others, as I alluded to, that you know, to what percentage do we attach happiness to at the workplace? What percentage do others find to be such a dreadful exercise to be at the workplace? However, they are forced by these circumstances that they experience. And again, we tend to underscore the other complaints. We tend to brush them aside. For example, your racism that is in the workplace, favoritism, harassment, and there are so many things that are happening in our workplaces such that they are not adequately addressed. We tend to shy away from them because it depends who is doing it to whom, and people become victim of circumstances as a result. Okay. To you viewers at home, we just would like to take this opportunity for having listened to this podcast, and we promise that we will be consistent and improve on our platform engagement, and I think we will have to invite a few individuals on our next pod, so that we just bring in some excitement into the room, and hear what other views are on the workplace environment, and they could perhaps also render assistance to people, even if it's one person that would be watching us or those individuals. I do know that you love us, and you will keep on listening to us. We promise to do good to you, and tell us once we publish this podcast as to what we would want us to talk about as well. Yes, shall we call it a night? Yeah, good.
Have a great one.
Have a great one. Thank you.
Yeah.